but horrific questions that we're even having to ask them about children in Gaza. It's entirely possible to stop the starvation that is being imposed upon children in Gaza if the Israeli military would simply let us have access. As you say, we understand that 16 children have so far died from malnutrition and dehydration in Gaza. The truth is, there are likely to be many more. We just don't know the real numbers because we as humanitarians are not able to get proper access to help the population. What we do know is that around one in six children under 2 are so far suffering from acute malnutrition. What that means is that children are starving. And what's really concerning is that it's the fastest decline in a population's nutrition status ever recorded. It means that children are being starved at the fastest rate the world has ever seen. And that could end immediately if we were only able to get access to provide help to these people. It's very clear that starvation is being used as a weapon of war. Food is simply not being allowed to reach people in the volumes that is needed in Gaza. And it's a particular problem in the north of Gaza where there is a double siege being imposed. I could tell you about my own medical aid for Palestinian staff in the north of Gaza. One of my colleagues, Amir, has been eating animal feed in recent weeks because they just can't get hold of enough food. The animal feed, which was for horses and donkeys, has started to run out, and now people are eating bird seed. This is a situation that is entirely created deliberately. It's not an accident, and it could end immediately if the Israeli military would simply open more access points. It would give us as humanitarians access to the north of Gaza through the Karni crossing, for example, or the Erez crossing. We'd be able to deal with these problems straight away. So it's not difficult to solve. It's just that there is no will to make it happen. And that's why political will really matters. Pressure to let aid and aid workers in right now matters so much. And it's also why we need an immediate ceasefire. Yeah, so there's almost a double siege, I would say, being imposed at the moment because the only entry point into Gaza for people, for aid workers, is through the Rafah crossing. And then there are 2 crossings in the south for trucks of aid. But if we want to reach, for example, the north of Gaza, there is another Israeli checkpoint across Wadi Gaza, which separates the middle and the south of Gaza from the north. So if we want to reach those people, we have to get into Gaza, first of all, and then we have to cross a second checkpoint into the north. And the data shows that the vast majority of requests for humanitarian convoys to the north are being denied. Yesterday, one was allowed in to take some medical supplies to some of the hospitals, but food convoys are not able to reach people. And in some cases, when humanitarian convoys have gone, they've actually been shot at. You saw the horrific scenes last week in the north of Gaza when a food convoy did arrive. And then the desperate people who were gathered round the trucks to try to receive the aid were themselves shot at, and more than 100 killed and over 700 injured. So the conditions that exist on the ground in Gaza now, they're not accidental. It's because of restrictions placed in the way of humanitarian organisations being able to bring relief to people in need. And under international humanitarian law, we have to remember that because Israel is the occupying power, it actually has a legal obligation to meet the basic needs of people in Gaza. So it's their responsibility to make sure that people have food and medical care, but they don't have it at the moment. And as I say, it's something that could change immediately. It's the same if we look at the situation in hospitals, where there is now not one single fully functioning hospital in Gaza. This is because of the systematic dismantling of the health system that we've seen. I have medical aid from Palestinian doctors working in some of the hospitals in Gaza, but the number of people that we're able to reach and the kind of relief we're able to provide is just a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed. And until there is a cessation of the bombardments, until we have a ceasefire, and until we have proper access, so that means fewer restrictions on our ability to help people, then we won't be able to mount the kind of humanitarian operation that is really needed to save lives in Gaza.